Pay attention to this security camera footage. It is grainy, shot in the high-contrast black and white typical of commercial surveillance systems. It shows the interior of a Walgreens in suburban Minneapolis. You see a woman in a white pharmacy coat walking through the aisles. She is moving with the muscle memory of someone who has done this 1,000 times. She checks the refrigerated doors to ensure they are sealed. She turns off the overhead lights in the cosmetic section. She is following her closing routine exactly as she has for 23 years. Her name is Linda Hartwell. She is 62 years old, a senior pharmacy technician, a widow, and a mother of 3 who hasn't seen her children in over a year. In exactly 90 seconds, she will walk toward the back storage area, and the camera will lose sight of her. That is the last time anyone will ever see Linda Hartwell. But there is a second piece of footage. It comes from a different camera, at a different angle, covering a different entrance. It shows a young man entering through the rear delivery door at 9:54 p.m. He is wearing a dark hoodie, head down, walking with purpose. He, too, disappears from the frame, heading into the same blind spot where Linda just vanished. 2 pieces of footage. 1 missing woman. And when you understand the relationship between them, you will realize this isn't a story about a random attack or a robbery gone wrong. This is a story about loneliness, about manipulation, and about what happens when the person you let into your heart learns exactly how to get back inside your life. Most people assume cases like this involve strangers, break-ins, wrong time. That makes investigative sense. Police start with the obvious: a robbery, random violence, someone targeting pharmacies for narcotics. That is where they focused in the first 12 hours after Linda's disappearance was discovered. Wednesday morning, 8:07 a.m. The opening pharmacist, Mark Chen, arrived for the day shift. Mark had worked there for 4 years. He liked Linda. She was the backbone of that store. He pulled into the lot and felt a strange knot in his stomach when he saw Linda's sedan still parked in her usual spot, right under the light pole. That was wrong. Linda was precise. She always left by 10:15 p.m. On closing nights, she was always home by 10:35 to watch the late news. Her car being there meant she never left. Mark walked to the front entrance. The main sales floor lights were still on. That was wrong too. He walked back to the pharmacy counter. Everything looked normal. It was organized. The gate was lowered, but not locked. There were no signs of a struggle. No overturned chairs. No spilled pills. No shattered glass. Then, he saw it. Linda's purse was sitting on the counter near the prescription pickup window, and next to it, plugged into the wall outlet, was her phone. Mark called 911 at 8:14 a.m. Police arrived by 8:31 a.m. They taped off the scene. They started with the obvious theories, but they were looking in the wrong direction. They were looking for a stranger who broke in. They didn't yet know that the danger had a key. To understand what happened in that pharmacy, you have to understand the quiet tragedy of Linda Hartwell's life. She had lived in Minneapolis her entire life. She raised 3 kids as a single mother after her husband died of a heart attack 11 years ago when she was 51. She worked at the same Walgreens for 23 years. She was reliable, never missed a shift. The kind of employee corporate loves because she never complained about solo closing shifts or last-minute schedule changes. Walgreens, like most pharmacy chains, had implemented cost-cutting measures over the past 3 years. Instead of 2 employees closing together, they created rotating schedules where senior staff members would handle closing duties solo on certain nights. It saved the company approximately $180 per store per week in labor costs. She had been doing it for 2 years. She never had a problem. She never complained, but outside of work, the silence was deafening. But people who worked with her said she seemed lonely. She would mention weekends spent entirely alone. She would volunteer for extra shifts on Thanksgiving and Christmas so other people could be with their families. She was the person who brought in homemade cookies but ate lunch alone in the break room, reading paperback novels. In March, 7 months before she disappeared, something changed. Linda seemed happier. She smiled more. She started wearing makeup again. She mentioned going to dinner, going to movies, having plans on weekends. Co-workers asked if she had met someone. She blushed. She said maybe. She said it was new. She said she didn't want to jinx it. His name was Terrence. She eventually told them he was younger than her, but age is just a number, right? He made her feel young again. He made her feel wanted. He made her feel like she mattered to someone. But here is what Linda's co-workers didn't know. and what only came out after the investigation began. Terrence Bishop was 28 years old. He met Linda at a grocery store in March. She dropped her shopping bags in the parking lot. He helped her pick everything up. They talked for 20 minutes. He asked for her number. She was surprised, flattered, and confused why a man that young would be interested in a 62-year-old grandmother. He said age didn't matter to him. He said he liked mature women who had their lives together. He said he would love to take her to dinner. And Linda, who hadn't been on a date since her husband died, who spent every evening alone, who had children who never called, said yes. That first date turned into a second date. The second date turned into him staying over. Within 2 months, he had moved into her house. Within 3 months, he had her debit card because his job as a warehouse worker didn't pay much. And she wanted to help. And wasn't that what people who cared about each other did? And within 4 months, while Linda was sleeping one night in May, Terrence went through her purse. He found her keys, including the Walgreens rear entrance key she carried on her key ring. He walked to a 24-hour key duplication kiosk at a nearby hardware store, made copies of both her house key and the pharmacy key, and returned them to her purse before she woke up. He told himself it was insurance. If things went south with Linda, he would need a way to access money. Pharmacy drugs had value. He had heard people talk about it. He knew people who would buy them. The key was a backup plan he hoped he would never need. Linda never knew. For 5 months, Linda was happier than she had been in years. She had someone to come home to, someone who said he loved her, someone who made her feel visible. She didn't notice the money disappearing from her savings. She didn't notice Terrence was home during work hours. She didn't question when he said his job was doing layoffs. She kept working, kept depositing paychecks, until a coworker saw Terrence at a bar downtown with 2 young women, buying expensive drinks, his arm around one of them. Until that coworker told Linda, until Linda checked her bank statements and saw $14,000 missing. Until she checked his phone while he was in the shower and found messages with 3 other women, plans to meet, photos, and conversations where he called Linda his meal ticket. Linda confronted him on August 23rd. She told coworkers the next day, shaking, crying, saying she had kicked him out, changed the locks, blocked his number. She felt like an idiot. Coworkers tried to comfort her. They told her he was a con artist. They said she did the right thing. But Linda seemed broken. Not just angry, but devastated. Because it wasn't about the money. It was about the loneliness she had felt for 11 years finally being acknowledged. Then discovering it was all fake. It was about her children not caring, but this stranger pretending to care, and it all being a performance. Terrence didn't give up easily. He texted her dozens of times. "Baby, please. I'm sorry, I really did love you. I need to explain. Can we just talk?" She blocked him. He showed up at the pharmacy once in September. She threatened to call the police. He left, but he kept trying. And crucially, he kept the copy of the pharmacy key. Now, look at the footage again. October 15th, Tuesday night. The interior camera shows Linda at 9:52 p.m. She is walking through the aisles. She checks that the customers are gone. She locks the front door. She turns off the lights in the front sections. She walks toward the back storage area where they keep overstock medication and supplies. She disappears from the interior camera's view. That is it. That is all the interior camera shows. She walks to the back. She doesn't walk out. The exterior camera shows something else. The rear delivery entrance door opens. A person enters, male, young, black, wearing dark clothes and a hood. The camera angle doesn't capture his face clearly. He walks with purpose, not hesitant, not looking around like someone breaking in would. He walks like someone who has a key. He moves toward the same back storage area Linda just entered. He disappears from the exterior camera's view. That is all the exterior camera shows. He doesn't walk out, not on camera. Not that we can see. Police pulled Linda's phone records from the phone found, charging behind the counter. The most recent texts were from a blocked number. They unblocked it. Terrence Bishop. Dozens of messages over the past 2 months. The most recent was from him, sent on October 14th, the night before she disappeared. "I just want to talk, please. I'll come by tomorrow." She hadn't responded. Detectives went to Terrence's apartment in South Minneapolis. He was home. They brought him in for questioning. Terrence Bishop sat across from detectives and told them a story. Yes, he knew Linda. Yes, they dated. Yes, she had kicked him out. Yes, He had been trying to contact her because he wanted to apologize. No, he didn't go to the pharmacy Tuesday night. He was home alone. Detectives showed him the exterior camera footage. They showed him the figure entering the door. Terrence watched the screen. Then, with a chilling casualness, he said, "That's me." Detectives leaned forward. "You were there?" "Yeah," he said. "But I didn't do anything to her. I didn't even see her." He explained that he still had the key. He admitted he was broke and desperate. He decided to go in Tuesday night after closing, take what narcotics he could carry, sell them, and make some money. He wasn't going to hurt anyone. He thought the place would be empty. He used his key, entered at 9:54 p.m., and walked toward the storage area. But then, he told the detectives, "I heard something. I realized someone was still there. I panicked. I turned around and ran out through the side emergency exit, the one door in the entire facility that didn't have a camera on it." He claimed he left immediately. He claimed he never entered the storage room. He claimed he never saw Linda. He just got scared and ran. That was his story. A burglar with a conscience. A thief who got cold feet. Police didn't believe it. They arrested him. They searched his apartment. They found the pharmacy key. They found his phone with those texts to Linda. They found browser searches for pain medication street value and pharmacy security camera blind spots, but they didn't find Linda. They didn't find blood on his clothes. They didn't find a weapon. The prosecution faced a nightmare scenario. They had a missing woman, a suspect who admitted being at the scene, and a timeline of 90 seconds where their paths crossed. But they had no body. Without a body, the defense could argue anything. The trial took place 8 months later. The charge was second-degree murder. The defense strategy was aggressive. They argued that without a body, there was no proof of death. They painted a picture of Linda Hartwell that was heartbreaking in its possibility. They argued that Linda, humiliated by the scam, heartbroken by her children's abandonment, and tired of her lonely life, saw Terrence enter. They argued she used the distraction to slip out the side exit herself. They suggested she walked away from her life to start over somewhere else, leaving her phone and identity behind to be truly free. They pointed to her children's absence. Why would she stay? The defense attorney asked the jury. Her children didn't call. Her boyfriend was a con artist. Maybe she just walked away. Linda Hartwell was a creature of habit, the prosecutor told the jury. She plugged her phone in at 9:47 p.m. because she knew she had 15 minutes of closing duties left. She wanted a full charge for the drive home. You do not charge a phone you are about to abandon. You do not leave your purse, your car keys, and your wallet if you are walking away to start a new life. The phone's position pinned the moment of her disappearance to those exact 90 seconds. It proved she intended to come back to that counter. It proved she intended to go home. She didn't leave, the prosecutor said, pointing at Terrence. She was taken. The jury deliberated for 6 days. It was a difficult case. Convicting a man of murder without a corpse is a heavy burden. But in the end, the timeline was inescapable. Linda walked to the back at 9:52. Terrence walked in at 9:54. Only one of them walked out. Terrence Bishop was convicted of second-degree murder. He was sentenced to 25 years in prison. He will not be eligible for parole until 2041. To this day, he maintains his innocence. He admits he is a thief. He admits he is a con artist. But he swears he is not a killer. He swears he never saw her. Linda is still missing. It has been 4 years. Linda would be 66 years old now. The pharmacy closed 6 months after the trial. Corporate cited routine consolidation, but everyone knew the truth. Customers stopped coming. The staff felt like they were working in a graveyard. The building sat empty for 2 years. It is an urgent care clinic now. The side exit, the one without a camera, has been bricked over. Some people believe Terrence. They say the evidence was too thin, that convicting a man based on a timeline is dangerous. Some people believe Linda is still out there, living a quiet life in a different town, finally free of the people who ignored her. But most people know the truth. The truth is in those 90 seconds. The truth is in the silence between the frames. The question everyone asks is why Linda walked to that storage area alone. She knew Terrence had been stalking her. She had to be afraid. Why didn't she ask for backup? Why didn't she refuse to close alone? People who knew her say that is who Linda was. She didn't want to cause trouble. She didn't want to be a burden. She probably thought she was overreacting. She probably told herself she was safe in a locked building. She probably thought she would be fine. She was wrong. What we know for certain is this. Linda Hartwell locked the front door at 9:52 p.m. and walked toward the darkness of the storage room. Terrence Bishop entered at 9:54 p.m. using a stolen key. Between those moments is a void. No audio, no footage, no witnesses, just absence. Linda never walked out on camera. Terrence says he left immediately. One of them is lying. Or perhaps, the truth is something far worse than we can imagine. The only certainty is that a 62-year-old woman who felt invisible for a decade became literally invisible in the span of 90 seconds. And 4 years later, nobody knows where she is.